All right, folks, we are moving on to the next video, section 10.4, opportunities and challenges to team building. Go ahead and set it up. All right, making good use of the space today. So as we move forward in understanding team dynamics, we have to tackle one of the more inevitable and misunderstood aspects of teamwork, which is conflict. Conflict is a natural part of any team environment, and some people don't like conflict. Some people think conflict's a bad thing. They're averse to it. They're allergic to it. But conflict is great. Conflict is how you really know that people are committed. That's how you know that people are with it. They've bought in, and now they're starting to engage with each other. And, the niceties aside, we're trying to solve some real problems here. How are we going to do it? It's not that easy. It's not that simple. We've got to sit down and we got to challenge each other. You put out an idea, that's great. Okay, I don't like your idea. Here's why I don't like it. You don't like what I just said? Tell me why you don't like what I just said. Let's be honest about it. Conflict is a good thing. It is a natural part of any team environment. But it can also be a bad thing. It can be. We're going to talk about that. Okay? But it just arises from simple factors like communications breakdown or competition over goals or resources, or just differences in ideas, differences in personality. Conflict can feel disruptive, but it's commonly a good thing. Modern organizational behavior research tells us that we should really embrace constructive conflict, which is a very specific type of conflict, not constructive is the good conflict. When we manage that correctly, that can be incredibly beneficial. And it's an important developmental milestone because it helps teams to grow stronger, to build trust, ultimately to achieve higher performance. And the benefits are really just that healthy conflict forces a greater diversity of ideas and perspectives to come forward. It enhances the team's problem-solving capabilities because they're forced to clarify critical issues and to deeply vet their different ideas and approaches. If you're not challenged on something, you might be missing something that's really crucial. You're only as strong as your weakest argument. You've got to, if there's a flaw, if there's a hidden flaw, and you've got a team member who sees that and can bring that up to the surface, you can address it head on. That's what you want. That's what you need. So conflict is really important, and that's where the strongest ideas are formed. All right, there is a great video here from Patrick Lencioni. He has written a lot about the 5 dysfunctions of the team, and I'm gonna refer you to this. I won't play it here, but highly recommend that because he talks a little bit about conflict here, and it's just a great video.
When it comes to
the biggest obstacle to harnessing conflict isn't the disagreement itself, but it's the fear of conflict, right? They want to avoid confrontation because they think they're going to hurt people's feelings or they're going to damage relationships. But guess what? It happens. That's life. If there's a problem, if there's an issue, if there's a flaw, that's not going to disappear if you just ignore it, right? That's just going to mean it gets suppressed. And that suppression leads to unresolved problems, unresolved tensions that eventually resurface in much more damaging ways. So think about what happens when people are afraid to speak up. Instead, you get passive-aggressive behavior. You get people talking around each other's backs. You get workplace politics. All of that chips away at trust and momentum. The key is moving past that fear. As organizational experts have pointed out, it is cultivating a profound trust amongst team members. If a team trusts that every member has the best interests at heart of every other member, they are willing to engage in honest and unfiltered and passionate debate and ideas. Constructive conflict allows teams to address those pressing issues openly and collaboratively and transparently, so that concerns are resolved right when they appear, rather than being left to breed resentment later on. So how do managers ensure conflict is constructive and not destructive, especially in teams that are prone to avoidance? There are 2 techniques we can use. The first is called mining. Mining is where you designate a team member, sometimes the leader, but sometimes not. But you designate someone to take on the role of the conflict miner. This person actively seeks out and extracts disagreements that are buried beneath the surface. So if you sense a potential disagreement or a differing viewpoint that nobody has vocally expressed or mentioned, the miner whoever's that designated person has to then call it out. They have to call out this sensitive issue and compel the team to say, yo, I'm sensing something here. I'm feeling some conflict here, and we need to get this out. So, if you think you know who it is, call in that person, say, share your ideas with me, share your thoughts with me. Let's get this out into the open. You want to courageously and confidently call it out so it can be worked through. The second technique is called real-time permission. And this is an intervention used during a heated debate, right? When team members start to feel uncomfortable because the discussion's getting a little tense, they might naturally back off or they may change the subject. And real-time permission involves the leader stepping in to recognize that we are having some discomfort right now and that we need to pause and we need to remind everybody that this thing we're doing, this disagreement we're having, this is awesome. This is necessary. This is the effective teamwork in action, right? Just take a step back, breathe it in. Don't bring any personal feelings into it. Just understand this is healthy. This is what we want. And let's don't focus on the person, focus on the ideas, their ideas. And that strategy can give the group permission not to step away, but to lean into that discomfort and continue that difficult discussion that they're having. It coaches them to focus on those issues without letting the relationships fears shut down any progress. So when conflict arises, the individual response of each member determines whether the interaction is going to strengthen the team or tear it down. We generally categorize individual reactions based on whether they are constructive or destructive, and then whether they are active or passive. On the positive side, constructive responses are those aimed at dialogue, learning, and resolution. These can be active, like talking to understand another person's perspective, actively creating solutions together, expressing emotions clearly or honestly, or just reaching out to reconcile. Constructive responses could also be passive, like just reflectively thinking where you hold your response until you fully process the situation, or delaying your response to ensure that you're being fully thoughtful about it, or maybe adapting your position based on some new information that you've received. That's a good response. In contrast, destructive responses tend to damage trust amongst the group, and they tend to hinder progress. So that's actively engaging in aggressive behaviors like dominating the conversation, talking over each other, responding with anger. Passive behaviors that are destructive are like just avoiding conflict, shutting down emotionally, hiding how you're really feeling. So to build a strong team, we have to continuously strive to favor those constructive responses, whether they're active or passive, even when they're feeling challenging. So here's a nice little grid here that we can visualize these in. In the active and constructive quadrant at the top left there, we find the highest value behaviors, actively working to take the other person's perspective, creating new solutions that satisfy both sides, and reaching out to maintain the relationship while solving the problem. That's where innovation and collaboration thrive. In the passive and constructive area, we're still happy because it's constructive, but we see behaviors related to healthy internal processing and self-management, thoughtful reflection, allowing time to respond to a tense situation, adapting your strategy to accommodate valid opposing points. The danger zones lie in the destructive quadrants over on the right. So active and destructive responses are typically aggressive. They're focused on a personal victory, winning at all costs, overtly displaying anger, demeaning your colleagues, retaliating against them. Those behaviors tend to shred the trust of the team pretty instantly. If you've ever seen the show or the movie or the play, 12 Angry Men, it's a great example of lots of active, destructive behavior. Tons of conflict, 12 angry men. In the name itself, there's conflict. But there's some personal attacks lobbied in that play. And then finally, passive and destructive responses are avoidance tactics, yielding too easily without resolving the core issue, hiding or suppressing your emotions, engaging in internal self-criticism, saying, my idea sucks. It's actually not that good. I'm going to keep it to myself. Actually, yeah, this was not a good idea. I'm not going to speak up rather than bringing your idea to the fold. So for any professional, understanding where your natural response falls on this matrix is important, right? If you have a tendency toward these destructive responses, whether it's active or passive, you just need to recognize those patterns and try to move toward the constructive side. Try to be more effective, a more supporting team member, and ensure that your conflict serves as fuel for the growth of the team rather than a source of damage. And you can start thinking about this just with your personal relationships. For me, I think about, my wife and I, we have issues, we have conflict. They're always constructive conflict, but I shouldn't say that. There are times when we get mad at each other. We go into destructive conflict mode. And so she always gets on to me because I always talk over her. While she's talking, I start talking and she hasn't finished talking. And my brain doesn't process that very well. Like I just start talking and she's not finished. My brain hasn't realized that she's not finished talking yet. It just starts going. She really hates that. And I, as a human being, as me, I need to, I need to recognize that when I'm having conversations with my wife because she doesn't like it. And I don't want to do that. I don't want her to feel bad and feel like she can't argue with me and talk to me. So we have to work toward those constructive, whether it's in our groups, our teams, our personal life with our friends, our family, our loved ones. We always want to be on the constructive side of this. Okay. All right, there are a couple things in here at the end, but I'm going to skip past those. Like I said in the last few videos, I'm trying to keep these short. So there are some videos in there if you'd like to watch them, but we'll stop there. In the next video, we'll talk about team diversity. All right, I'll see you in that one.